Hi everybody and welcome back. In this lesson we're going to be discussing and implementing uniqueness validation. So in a later lesson we'll want to start using email addresses as unique identifiers. To enforce this uniqueness we'll be using a uniqueness option to the validate method. In previous tests we used user.new, which just created a Ruby object in memory. For uniqueness we need to put a record in the database. Let's go to test/models/user_test.orb. So I still have it open from a previous lesson. So let's add in a new test. A couple of spaces there. And what are we going to do? Well, we're going to say test, open quotes, email address should be unique. Okay, do. Now what do we say here? Well, we go duplicate user. So duplicate_user equals, so our instance variable user.dup, then at user.save, so we have to save this user to memory as I just mentioned, and then assert not duplicate user dot valid. So is the duplicate user valid? We have end in there, perfect. What we've just done is create a user with the same email address as our instance variable at user using at user.dup. This duplicates with the same attributes. We then save the user. As this user has a duplicate email address that already exists in the database, the save should fail. So when I say we should save the user, we should try and save the user. Next, we need to add uniqueness true to our email validations. So let's jump into our user file. So here we go, still open from a previous lesson. And what we want to do here is after our regex line, add in a comma, hit enter, and say uniqueness true. There we go. Let me save that. Now we still have a little bit to do. So what happens if someone enters an email address first in lowercase and then in uppercase? They should be treated the same. Email addresses are usually treated as case insensitive. So lowercase is processed or is the same as uppercase. So how do we handle this? Well, let's go back into our test file and take a look. We want to add one piece of code here. So new line here after line 49 on my screen. And we want to say duplicate user dot email. So the duplicate user's email equals our instance variable user dot email dot upcase. So here we're using the upcase method on strings. So this test does the same as the initial duplicate email test, but with an uppercase email address instead. Next we need to change our uniqueness validation because at the moment it's true and case sensitive. So at the moment this piece of code here, or this validation, duplicate user.valid is true because uniqueness validation is case sensitive, but we want it to be false. So what we need to do is go back to our uniqueness validation and add in an option for case sensitivity. So back here to user.orb, uniqueness true, we're just going to remove the true part, curly brackets, case underscore sensitive, false. So don't make it case sensitive. Let me save that. And now if we run our test, hopefully they should be green. No, we've got an error, so let's take a look and see what it is. Okay guys, so as we just seen, we have an error. So I've traced back and I can't really see where the error is coming from. So let's just take another look again when we run our tests. So I ran Rails tests, but what I should have ran was Rails test model or models. Okay, there we go. It works perfectly. And as we can see now, whereas when we ran our test previously, we had 7 out of 7 tests. Now we have 8 out of 8. So our new test, email address should be unique, has run and it's passed. So why was I getting the error that we just seen when I ran Rails test? Well, this is a good example of how to use your technical know-how and your Google chops or your experience with Google to find solutions. I traced back through all my code, so all the code we've written over the last couple of lessons, but I couldn't find anything wrong. I then took the last line of the error here, this line here. So I started at Q and I finished at missed here. I copied this and I pasted it into Google here. So as you can see here, there's what I pasted in. Now, you can see here this is purple because I clicked on this one, but I also clicked on the Stack Overflow answer. Now, Rails test is throwing bad file descriptor. So this looks like the error that I'm getting. and it is for Rails 6, which is even more relevant. But if you scroll down here, this person who has lodged this question or wants help with this error is getting something very similar. An answer which has been voted correct. If you go into test helper file and remove parallel testing, it should solve the problem. So what does that mean? If you go into your test helper file, which is in test helper, there it is there, the last line, you'll see here number of processors. That can be changed to 1 if you get an error similar to what I have. So if you are getting this error here, this probably means that a worker crashed and 14 tests were missed. So if you are getting a similar error, do Google for it, have a look around, but know that this might be your answer. You need to change the line parallelize workers to 1. So here's that line here on line 7 on my screen. This here needs to be changed to 1. Let's just double check that that matches. It does. Workers : 1. Let me save that. Command and save. Now, so let me just clear out my screen and run the test again. Rails test. And as we can see now, we don't have an error. That seemed to have solved the problem. So this may not happen for everybody. It all depends on your installation and your setup. But if you do get it, you can come here into your test helper file and make a change on line 7. Okay guys, that's it for this lesson. And as you can see, we now have 14 tests and all 14 are passing successfully. And the tests that we've added into our model, so if I go here to my test folder on the left, test, models, user test. So the tests that we've added in here, which are 8, so we've added in a significant number of tests here. They are all running perfectly, as we can see here. Escape that. As we can see here, Rails test : models. Hit enter. And we have 8 tests run, 8 tests pass. Perfect. Okay guys, that's it for this lesson. We covered a lot of ground. Hopefully it all made sense. If not, as always, reach out to me in the community or the Q&A sections of the lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to continue with uniqueness validation, and we're going to look at some problems that we may have introduced with the current code and how that can be fixed. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next lesson.